Hello, everyone. Welcome to our latest installment of Under the Hood. I'm Jen. I'm from the team at Pressbooks, and I just wanted to say thank you for joining us. I think this is the fourth installment of Under the Hood we've done so far, Alan. And this is a webinar series that Pressbooks runs in partnership with OEGlobal. And we started this as a way to highlight some of the more unique publishing projects that folks are doing in this community around the world. So we've done student e-portfolios, board games. Last time we did a first of its kind vocational publishing text. And now today we're so excited to highlight Learning with AI from the University of Leeds. So this text is a collection of case studies contributed by university students around the world about how they're using AI as a learning partner. And we are joined by some of those student contributors today. So welcome to our panel. Chrissy, Alexandra, Ruchira, and Christine from the University of Leeds, and Alan, who will be moderating the session. Alan, I think the way you put it when we were coming up with the session description was to best inform our practices of integrating generative AI into education. What better source than the students themselves and the stories of how they're using these technologies? So that's what makes this book so special. Before I hand it off to Alan and the panel to get into it, just a few housekeeping notes. As Alan said, the chat is open. Please introduce yourselves. Let us know where you're coming from. I think based on the registrations, we might have a bit of a global audience with us today. So we'd love to know where you're joining us from. I just do ask that if you have a question that you wanted to direct towards the panel, please use the Q&A function for that. I will be keeping an eye on the chat, but it just is easier for us to keep track of things if you put those questions in the Q&A. And I think with that, that's it for me. And I'll hand it over to Alan to kick it off. Thanks.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm Alan Levine from OEGlobal. We're very excited about this series from Pressbooks, especially because they took my idea because the whole premise is when if you go to a conference session, what would happen typically for this is we would see slides and we would talk about this great book, which is really what you're going to find as you listen to this. And we would like walk through slides and talk about how it formed. Then maybe at the end of the session, they'd put it up on the screen. And I was like, no, I want to see it from the beginning. And also we want to talk about and this metaphor and it fails because it is kind of like North American based, the idea of the hood, like in the UK, it's a bonnet. But it's like there are people who are fascinated with cars, and I'm not one of them. Like, I drive my car. I'm not like a car person, but I remember seeing often like in public parks when I lived in Arizona, there'd be gatherings of people with their classic cars in the park, and they'd be standing around, and the hoods would be open, and people would be saying like, "Oh, why did you do that? And what's that do?" And so the idea of having conversations about looking at the car or the press books from the outside, and then having a little bit of insight into how it was built and how it was done. And so that's the premise. And Pressbooks, my colleagues kind of ran with Alan's idea, and we've had a great series. And I think when we were in September, when Jen and I were starting to brainstorm our next session, I forget where, but I noticed that there was a new title from University of Leeds. So I learn a lot of times about Pressbooks. One of the greatest resources, you probably know about it, Pressbooks.directory. It's like the hugest catalog of everything in Pressbooks. And it's a great way to find different titles just of interest. And I saw, oh, University of Leeds is doing stuff. And I went and looked at it and I found this title. It's, wait a minute, it's by Chrissy Norenzi. I know Chrissy, we work together. And the fortunate thing was this project actually kicked off last year at Open Education Week when Chrissy organized a student panel who were getting ready to launch the first cycle of this. So it's most exciting because what we're hearing from, and I don't have to say about anything about describing what AI is and why it's on everybody's front burner. But I think sometimes like we form general opinions by what we see in news and social media and articles. And really, the best sources are really what we find that our own students are doing with this technology. And, I think you'll find when you look at the Pressbooks title that we're talking about today, when you read these case studies, they kind of like break open your assumptions. And like I saw about five different things that I never would have thought of. And so that's why we're really excited. to welcome Chrissy, Christine, and Ruchira and Alexandra. I'm going to stop talking so we can meet them. I'll turn it over to Chrissy and then we can pass it on. Just, of course, introduce yourself, where you're from. I asking each person to say, like, tell us something special about University of Leeds, the place or the institution for you as a person, especially because we have so many people from around the world. Hello, Chrissy. It's been too long since I've seen you.
Right, thank you so much, Alan and Jen, for this kind invitation. I think we can remove the slide maybe so that we can all see each other.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's wonderful to be here, and thank you everybody for joining us today. Um, Alan invited us to say something about Leeds, and I have a few bricks here of Lego. So Lego means for me, it's colorful. You can build things. There is a lot of diversity, as you can see here, different colors, and they're falling down. So that's what Leeds represents to me. Lots of opportunities, lots of diversity, lots of connections, because what Lego also does is, and I didn't know Alan is going to ask us, but I always have Lego around. So here you go. You can build things, you can make things. And one of the things we made is that book with our students. So I'm in the School of Education, like Alan said already. I'm also a student myself. So I don't just have my students, I'm a student myself on a postgraduate qualification in leadership, which I'm doing in our business school. And I'll hand over to Rashira, who is one of my co-students. So my
Thank you so
peer.
much. Yeah, thank you so much, Chrissy and Alan. Hello, everyone. I'm Ruchira, and I am a postgraduate student in the leadership and management as a peer to Chrissy. And I am a techie. I'm a techie full-time professional. And this concept is very close to my heart because I've always been an experimenter with techie. And 15 years ago, I learned about neural networks and machine language, but never actually, got to use the AI that I'm using right now with this space. So 15 years later, I'm just trying to embed all the AI techniques in my leadership and management. So it's just taken a shape the way I didn't think about. So that is something really exciting. And about the Leeds campus, I think the best places in the Leeds campus is definitely the libraries because I'm obsessed about books. So, yeah, if you're in Leeds, you should visit the University of Leeds libraries. With that in mind, I'll pass over to Kirsty.
Hi everyone, my name's Kirsty McDermott. I'm an Open Education Resources Manager here at the University of Leeds, and I lead on the University of Leeds Open Book Service that uses Pressbooks. So what to say about Leeds? Leeds, I'm going to start with the city first. So what can I say about the city quickly? We have Leeds United, we're very close to the Dales, it's a great location. And I think for me, the campus is really filled with unique and very sort of knowledgeable, intelligent people, and it has a really great, diverse body. And it's a pleasure to work with so many wonderful staff and students.
Thank you so much. And we can go to my student, who is Alexandra.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra Poradowska. I'm a postgraduate student of the MA in Digital Education. I'm actually an online student, but I had the opportunity to be at Leeds during summer, and I went to see a presentation. It was Chris's presentation, and I'm really happy about the university because there is lots of collaboration, lots of opportunities to say or to talk about creativity and to collaborate not only between students but also with tutors. So I think that's really important. And when I got to know about this project, well, I thought it was a great opportunity to share how I've used AI for a particular task during one of my seminars.
Fantastic.
Great.
And so let's talk about learning with AI. And we'll ask Chrissy and anybody else to talk about, like, what was the genesis for the project, and how did it come to be what we're seeing now?
Okay, I'll make a start. Well, the thing is with AI, we are with AI now 3 years. From the very beginning, we started experimenting with it. And I'm saying all these people who are curious, who are, experimenting with a range of tools, including AI, during November 2022 and onwards. So I founded a community called Creativity for Learning in Higher Education in 2015, and this is still growing. So when AI came along, we started reaching out to people. We wanted to crowdsource ideas of how people have started using AI, staff and students, educators and students. And we put a collection together with 101 ideas, thanks to the generosity and the openness of open scholars and students across the world. We only got 5 contributions from students at the time for the first collection and 12 from students in the second collection. These numbers are tiny. So there is something about representing what students are doing with their authentic voices, their own stories. And what we haven't seen yet is exactly that. So we wanted to find a way that would help students to come forward and share. We know that there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of narrative about you shouldn't be using this. Students are afraid, staff as well, but students are afraid to admit because the precautions, maybe they will be punished. There's a lot of emphasis on assessment. You shouldn't be using it. This is not your work. This is not original. This is not authentic. What are you learning? You are bypassing learning. You are bypassing thinking. We wanted to capture their stories as told by the students. So we set up that project as an open Pressbook. For us, it was really important. We are very fortunate to have the university backing us with open Pressbooks, having that platform where we can openly publish that work. But we didn't want staff to lead that project. Instead, we have student editors. So as Alan said earlier, we recruited and we launched during Open Education Week in 2025 with 2 student ambassadors, 1 undergraduate student and 1 postgraduate student being the editors, and staff supporting these editors so that we can progress and publish actually the collection. So I can mention maybe briefly the names of the colleagues, and we have Kirsten here with us today, who's a member of that support group. We also have Tom Fries from the Knowledge Equity Network. We have Damien MacDonald from Digital Education Service. We have Richard de Blaquier Clark from Organizational Development and Professional Learning. And John, who joined us just this year, John Palfreyman from the Leeds University Business School. So we have colleagues who are supporting our students in that role. And I think, Alan, you mentioned cycle, and it is cycle or circle, if you like. So we have now completed the first circle, and we have published the book on the 9th of September this year. And our first editors were, like I said, 2 undergraduate, 1 undergraduate student, Amani Hassan, and Olivia Davis, a master's students. Their role as an editorial team has now come to an end successfully because we published the 28 stories. And we have now just recruited 2 new student editors, Zachary Tsai and Mark Grattan, who are postgraduate researchers or doctoral students who are taking on that editorial role. And we are very much looking forward to working with them this year. Now, it is a book. It is an open book, openly licensed, and we have shared here in the chat. Thank you, Alan. The link to it. It's also a research project. So we have we got ethical approval, and we are going to use the stories, and anybody in the world can also do that, interrogate the data to see what we're actually getting from these stories. Now, we need to say that some students, the submission was via a survey, and I think we are going to discuss that a little bit later. But we had some students, because of the negative narratives that are around being associated, that they wanted to contribute, but they didn't want their name to be there. absolutely fine. We have kept their personal details confidential and have published their story anonymous where they wanted to do that. And that says something, I think, about where we are. And it would be interesting also to hear from others what they think. Over to you, Alan.
All right, fantastic. I know we want to get in here, especially from Ruchir, Alexandra, Christine. But can we drive the book into the studio? Do you want to share, or I can share, Christy, so we can just
Okay. Yes, I'm happy
Yeah.
to share the
Yeah.
screen if that's okay with people. I hope people don't get dizzy, because sometimes when you show things on the screen and you move around too quickly, we have given you the link also. So let's give it a go so that we can maybe show the basic structure, Alan. And if you want to,
That's all good, because like that's what happens when you get in the car and like maybe you don't know how to steer it very well. And it happens to me a lot when I drive, and I think I've been driving for a while, but sometimes it feels like it's new. And so I think it's coming up now, of course, and
yes.
So it's
Can you see
fantastic.
it?
I did, one of the first things that grabbed me, because I'm a visual person like Chrissy, like the cover art. Can you talk about where that came from?
Yes, the cover art. Well, our original intention was to invite students to contribute, not just the way they have used AI in their learning, but also get artwork that we could use. Unfortunately, the submissions that we got, we felt as a team with the students that they were not really what we wanted to portray. We were looking for entangled artwork, if you like, where there was the human touch there and perhaps some use of AI. We didn't get that. So in the end, we went to, and we were very lucky to find better images of AI. If you haven't seen that project, please access it. It's a fantastic resource with openly licensed artwork done by humans about AI. So we looked at the ones that were available at the time and selected the one you can see on the cover. This is about AI, I think, is everywhere is the title. And I think it links really nicely with the ethos also. First, because it's openly licensed. So we felt very connected to this. We are promoting the human dimension, the human creativity here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to that entangled practice, but maybe this is something we can explore in the future, as it is an open book, not to replace the cover, but see what we can do in the book.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, I'd love to see more art chapters. So let's look at the structure. But it's so refreshing to me, because generally what you get with AI generated images is stuff that looks like AI generated images. It is getting better, but this is just beautiful that it's done by a human artist. But maybe just show a couple representative sections to give us a sense of the structure.
Yes. Now, the beauty of Pressbook is that you can click on download here and you can read it offline. You can create all kinds of AI generated outputs as well, including conversations or interviews, etc. But I'm just going to help you navigate a little bit. So there are some introductory chapters here. You can read about the project, our student editors, who the team is. You can see the journey. Maybe I can go in here, and we keep updating this. This is another benefit of having a Pressbook, where we can continuously updating it. As you can see here, Alan, we have added the launch event, which you helped us organize with the students. We have all the information here. Very recently, we added a podcast. So if you would like to get access to the podcast and listen to a conversation with Amani and Olivia, the outgoing student editors, that's all captured here. And it was really fascinating to hear them talking how the project has helped them develop and grow. They had not had any experience of editorial. They enjoyed working with staff and felt that they benefited hugely also from these public speaking sort of conversations we had with others nationally and internationally to help them professionally going forward. So that's this. One thing I want to highlight here in Pressbook, which I discovered very, very late, is that red strip here at the bottom where you can actually navigate quite easily. But I didn't see that quickly. So on the left here, we see then about the project, like I said, but then all the contributions from last year are grouped here under 2024, 2025. And you can see here, the numbering is a bit off, but there are 28 in total. These are all the authentic student stories that have been peer reviewed by the students themselves who were our editors, and we also supported that process as members of staff. The book is incomplete. The book keeps continue growing. So under 2025, 26, there is nothing there yet, but the survey is there and we are accepting contributions. So if you are a student or if you know students or would like to share with your students, it would be lovely to receive further contributions this year so that our new editors can commence work. And we have already received a few, but we haven't added anything live yet. But as contributions will come, they will be reviewed and then uploaded here. So this is how the book is going to grow. Alan, would you like me to go into one maybe?
Yeah, just show one very quickly. We'll see some more example chapters as we come into it. I have to say, like, I like that there's some of the titles are great. I saw, Gen AI and the art of motorcycle maintenance. Here we have enhancing clarity. So
which one would you like?
No, this is fine. This is fine. Just give a sense about what a chapter looks like.
Yes. So as you see, it's text-based at the moment, and this is all work in progress, but this is what we have for students who have given us their consent. Their name is mentioned. We avoid mentioning specifically the title of the program they are on, but also add the country they are doing their degree in. So as you can see here, there's a narrative around the context in which the students are writing, then how they have used AI, specific tools and technologies, but then also, and that was really important for us, how AI made a difference for their learning. How was this useful for their learning? And the last part is about tell us what tool or tools you have used. So all the narratives, the stories follow that recipe, if you like. And what we have done with the students here, we have highlighted in each specific things that stood out for us. So here, for example, it talks about generating multiple versions of paragraph openings or section headings helped me overcome writer's block. So I think that's quite nice to see what difference the AI made to them. Should we stop here for now?
Yeah, that's good. I would imagine a lot of people are already looking, and what I like about the chapter length is it's easy to get it's not long, and you get a sense about what the students found most important, and you get a very good cross section. And we'll talk some more about the variety mix. But we'll I know we want to hear from Ruchira and Alexandra as the students, but we want to ask Christine to talk about kind of like where this fits in for Leeds University. So how does this project fit in with the kind of strategic priorities at Leeds University?
Yeah, so we launched the University of Leeds Libraries Open Books platform back in January. So this publishing service aligns closely with our institutional priorities around open education and also knowledge equity. So it was really important for us to have a platform and a venue for both staff and students so that we can create knowledge without fees or barriers. It was really important to have Pressbooks for that. There's obviously other platforms as well, but we decided to go with Pressbooks. It seemed to have what we needed. Really happy with it so far. And it was a good opportunity really for us to collaborate with others more globally. So not just having books here at Leeds, but having co-creators from across the globe really, and Pressbooks is very helpful because you can add users from anywhere in the world. So it was really to sort of have a facility to make open education happen, and it's not the only facility, but it definitely has kind of helped on the open books front.
Great. And as you know, manager of the OER projects, like what have you seen some of the challenges in putting together this title and opportunities for this and broader?
Yeah. Sure. So, like, I really enjoyed being part of this project. I thought it was wonderful, and I was very fortunate to have Chrissy leading it. So it was student led, but Chrissy was very good at coordinating it, and I think that really helps because with OER, people who work in OER, it really kind of takes a village to get a book to come about, or any kind of OER that you might be making. And to have that kind of leadership from Chrissy was really instrumental, but also with the students, they were really helping with the editing. We had staff from all around the university doing different roles and just having, but it was cohesive, it wasn't messy. And I think that was down to Chrissy really, because she's very organised, and it was very sort of harmonious in a way to sort of get all this kind of working, and it really made me think about, you know, that kind of, it takes a village to make OER, and I think a lot of our books going forward will benefit from that kind of method. So it's not just somebody working in isolation trying to write their open book, but they're drawing in the expertise of both students and staff from all corners of the university. And because obviously it can be quite time consuming building OER. So if you can draw on talent from different corners of the university and beyond the university from different institutions as well, then it just speeds stuff up, but it also makes a more kind of richer, diverse OER as well. So I'd just say one of sort of the biggest challenges is just people simply finding the time to write and create. Obviously, people are so busy with their jobs and with their teaching, and students are busy with their studies, and a lot of people want to create and write, and it's how do you integrate that as part of like the student role, as part of staff roles as well. You know, can we kind of share the burden, if you like, share the work, having more co-authors, and also how can we protect people's time for this? You know, how can we actually carve out time in people's roles so that they actually have time to work on open education resources, because we have to recognise, you know, this is a very essential, important teaching activity and of course a public good, and it really deserves that time and proper reward and recognition.
Fantastic. Well, let's get to our students because we're anxious to hear from them. Both Alexandra and Ruchira have contributed to the book. Alexandra, can you talk about how you came into this? I understand you were part of this thing called a writing jam, which I was intrigued by when I saw that mentioned in the book. So let us know about that and like how you entered this with what you had in mind in thinking about AI as a student.
Yes, well, when I noticed that well, the call for contributions were open, I thought, well, it's a good opportunity for me to share my experience on how I use AI. And I was also doing a module on artificial intelligence and education, so we did lots of experiments with it. And I thought, well, it's a good opportunity for me to show how I use AI for a particular project. I wrote section 12, which is on assignment planning. And in there, I explain how I found AI useful for me to help me create a plan for my assignment. So I didn't want to use AI to tell me how to write my whole task, but I use it on how to structure it. What do I need to take into account to start to plan my writing? It was mainly as a plan. And what I found was that, well, the conversational tone of AI, I used Microsoft Copilot for this. It was really engaging to see what the tool was suggesting on how I could use a bullet list to prepare my plan. But I also noticed there were some limitations that I didn't know at the time, because I was trying to get Microsoft Copilot to use the assessment brief that I was given, and also to combine this so that I would do a proper plan taking into account the university's guidelines. But I noticed that because of the website address, it already exceeded the how do you say this, the path, the number of paths available. So it was not taking into account that website. So I was just continually asking, well, I will have to just copy and paste what I was told and ask the tool to help me. So these are things that you learn these things just by experimenting. So for me, I found it really useful in the end to 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 get a an example, a suggestion on how I could do my writing. And it was on a different topic, but I thought, well, I didn't want to see the content of what I wanted to write about, but I just wanted to see a guide, a module. And yeah, the topic was a completely different one, but it was useful for my writing in the way of how it was structured. So I found that, well, the opportunity was great for me to reflect on how I use it, on how I found there were limitations, but there were also some benefits. And by sharing this, well, you can let other people know that these tools also have some limitations, that nothing is going to be perfect. And at the end it's your decision whether you agree with what you were presenting and whether this is useful and relevant for your purpose.
And common, what I love about your chapter, Alexandra, and I see in many others, is this way of using it not to produce the work, but to actually to be part of it, as you talked about, as you're coming up with your thinking and working through the process. And I want to commend you for that. But as well, I'm really interested because, as I'm hearing you describe it, typically in eras before, when a technology is introduced, teachers like Chrissy and others, we would have to like understand, we'd have to explain the technology, we'd have to like have a little introduction, and pretty much you taught yourself. And maybe that doesn't seem like so unnatural, but it is really a different way of approaching technology, because the rate at which it's moving and changing, and you can't really understand everything that's going to happen, to me is an interesting phenomenon. So how's that for you as a student, to be learning not only what this thing can do, but learning how to do it as you do it?
Yes, it's really interesting, because sometimes when you think of these limitations and then you try the same task a few days later or a week later, you might get something different. So then you think, oh my God, this is really evolving on a continuous basis. So it's it can be challenging sometimes, because well, you don't know whether yeah, I mean, you just have to check on the outputs that you are getting, and also I think it's a continuous process of learning on how you use it, and whether the outputs are really appropriate or not. So it's like a continuous learning process, I would say.
Excellent. And Chrissy wants to say, you can just barge in, Chrissy. Come on, you know how.
Oh, yes. I mean, one dimension, it's fascinating to hear you, Alexander. One additional dimension is also that we actually on the course experiment with it. We are very open and transparent about how we are using. So our students are encouraged to experiment with us. And actually with Alexander, we have worked on another project together where we have co-designed, reimagined a whole module with an AI-enabled curriculum. So that experimentation is, I think, that we are fostering, that we are nurturing, perhaps is a better word, nurturing as something important to learn. And as Alexandra said, and it's actually in the book also, I don't know if it was on Alexandra's contribution or somebody else's, saying AI also makes mistakes, just like I make mistakes. And that's quite powerful. And that shows, for me at least, how critical actually students are. And they are very much aware that this is not about doing, AI doing the work for us, but engaging critically, responsibly, and ethically.
And there's also the sense, Alexander, like the way I read all that chapters are, you see this thread where students can come back and change, like often with computerized learning systems, like you do something, you get a fixed response because it's programmed into it. And here, because you can say like, no, explain it differently. Or there was one of the students who the prompt said like, I want to, like, I have these three levels, like simple, intermediate, and complex that I want to hear the results. And that's like amazingly flexible, but at the same time, it may take a lot more time. Do you find it takes more time? And you know that the time length is a little bit arbitrary because the process is so different. And that's why I don't think you can just talk about the time spent on this. So what's it like for you, like in your interaction stage, um, to have like this conversational partner, as you will?
Yes, well, I found it really useful for, let's say, certain tasks. For example, if I need to prepare a presentation and I just have like a very limited time to present, but I know what I need to talk about. What I do is I most of the times I use Microsoft Copilot and ask the tool to help me. I mean, to give them a time and say, I need to prepare this 5-minute presentation. Can you just help me with this number of slides? So, and then it will give me a suggestion. So I really, really find it useful for me in that case, because sometimes it's difficult for you to think of, oh, how many slides would I need? But then if you get this help and then you can have a look at it, it's something like your starting point, and you can say, oh yeah, this is true. I think I can only fit 2 slides for these short presentations, or maybe I could add another one. So it's good for me as a starting point when you really don't know how to tackle a task. So I found it convenient in that perspective.
Oh, excellent. And we're gonna come back to you, so you're not off the hook yet. But I want to hear from Richard. Like, what did you think when you heard about this project? Yeah, you said you were like a techie, so you're probably like, yeah, I want to be in on this. But maybe just as a student, like, what does it mean to be asked by your institution to tell them how you learn?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because as a student, especially with the thought program, the postgraduate program, we are always encouraged to use AI in most of our learnings. It's mostly signed as, green, red, amber, green, how much you can use AI as well. So all the modules that I've been into are minimal amber, which means you can use AI in your work. But there was also another module which was green, which means go on, explore AI, use it fully as much as you can. So I think all these elements help us to think from a different perspective and also elevate our levels of thinking. And as Chrissy mentioned, someone had written about because AI can make mistakes. That was me, Chrissy. Um, so the first thing about using this AI, especially for my education, was understanding the responsible usage. That, it is assisted intelligence for me. That's what I call my AI. And my chapter is, chapter 27, which is a partner and critic. So I do not let AI do the thinking. I elevate my thinking so AI can do the tactical stuff for me, like go on, find this for me, or do this for me, and so on and so forth. And I think instead of outsourcing my brain, where, the cognitive load and the cognitive power of people are going down so deliberately because of the use of AI, one of the best things you can do to use AI is to, having it as a partner who would challenge your assumptions, your biases, and also, making sure that you're using AI responsibly, not just copying and pasting everything you feed into it and just putting it up in your assignments or your modules and so on, because the kind of quality of output that an AI might have would be very different that you might have. And you can easily find out whether, someone has written using AI or, it's been humanly written as well. And the biggest motivator for me to be a part of this project, yeah, techie, of course, because I've been hands-on AI since a very long time, but also because I always wanted to write a book. And there you go. This is one of my, special moments to shine of having my name in the book. So definitely this is a motivating factor.
Okay, well, we look forward to your future book and endeavors, of course. Can you talk about a little bit? First of all, I'm intrigued, and maybe Chrissy or Christine, I haven't heard about this red, amber, green approach, and I think that's kind of interesting. It says that Leeds is pretty progressive because we know a lot of institutions are trying to be rigid and they're struggling because students are going to use what they can access. And so, can you, anyone tell us a little bit more about this sort of well, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, I'm happy to make a start because as an academic, we are using it extensively. So the university has introduced what we call the traffic light system. And I don't have the link, but I can find it after I stop talking to share with colleagues if they're interested. So this is linked to how students can or cannot use AI in their assessment. It only focuses on the assessment, not on the learning. And that's one of the limitations. The second one is, as Ruchira said, red means don't go near it. AI, it is AI. Orange or amber is you can use it, but you need to ask your module leader who will define in what ways you can. And that's why it is useful, but it can also lead to misinterpretation and wild interpretation of what amber can and does not mean. And green, like Ruchira said, is go for it. But then again, the go for it has some rules attached. This is not about copying and pasting what AI gives you. So while it has worked so far, maybe better when we were in an emergency situation, we thought, oh my God, what am I going to do with all my assessments? Introducing a rules-based system like the traffic light has been useful, but I think there is now time to move on. And actually, with one of my colleagues from the business school, who's also our tutor, Rushi, we are working on a different model, potentially a roundabout, which is more based on principles. And we have started putting our thoughts together, and we'll share that in the future. But yes, so the traffic light system works for all assessments. So all assessments needs to have an either green, red, or amber classification, and then the students know what that means. That's how it works at the moment.
And look, it fits in well with our driving metaphor. You got traffic lights, roundabouts,
yes!
the famous traffic circles, which threw me for a loop when I went to the UK because where I came from, we didn't have one. But I'm curious, both Rishi and Alexander, if you can, you are very progressive, obviously, and you have this really solid understanding about what you're doing. Do you hear from other students and peers like some things that maybe concern you or think like, like going broadly beyond what we hear in the survey that comes into the book? These are inspiring stories, but like what's the general, like, if you can even characterize things that you hear about other students doing with AI? Not tattling or telling on them and not focusing on cheating, because mostly I think what I read here and in other projects like this is that students are really going about it like creatively, and that's what comes through in a lot of these chapters. But we're really trying to get our hands around, like in general, the student body, how they are looking at this.
Yeah. I can share my views first. So I think most of them still do not know how to use AI the way that one can use to leverage its, benefits and its potential. One thing here is the awareness. Second thing here is, women use less AI compared to men. It's there's a lot of gender bias as well in this particular aspect. And also the third part is about helping people understand the responsible AI usage. So some people who just get on with it or are pragmatic, just like me, experiment with stuff, they come out with loads of other stuff. But people who are not experimenters or early adopters of such technology, they kind of lag a lot. It can be due to cultural norms, or it can be also due to loads of sustainable, now that we have it, AI uses a lot of water in its data center. There's loads of sustainable reasons and challenges to it as well. So some people will never use it because it's against their ethics and values. So there are loads of elements out to it. But in terms of, just a basic understanding, everybody knows what AI, and the most difficult part about this is it's just chat gpt for most of them. When you talk about AI, people think it's chat gpt. There's so much more to it than just chat gpt, because every model or every app comes with its own biases. So you need to try and test and ensure that it doesn't fail you. So there's definitely a lot of uptake, especially with the thought program, postgraduate program students who are using AI in their work and then using it for education as well within my peer group. But definitely, there's a lot of potential to help them understand, raise their awareness, how to better prompt maybe, or perhaps, better use AI on its own.
Hmm. Any thoughts, Alexander?
Well, from some of the things that I read from the collection, there were also things that really resonated with me on how students who are not English native speakers are using AI to help them with understanding what they have to do for university. So, for example, well, in my case, I've used it a few times when I had to read some research papers, and I found some complex sentences or complex language or things that I have to read many times, and I go back to it and I'm like, I haven't really understood this because there are too many subject pronouns here, but I don't know what they refer to. So in that case, I have used AI and say, can you break this sentence down? Can you put it into two simple sentences so I can understand? And it has done it. And I've noticed that, yeah, from some of the other um, chapters of the book, there were, I think, three of them, three students who have done the same. But another thing that really that I was really interested in was in some students using AI as a partner who will never judge you. Because sometimes you think that you may have a question and you think, oh, that's a silly question. I don't want to ask my tutor, or I don't want other students to hear it because that could be, well, it's some basic. Why don't you know about that? But then they feel like with AI, it's available all the time. I can ask any question and it will come back to me without making any judgments. So some students feel really happy about that because they feel like, oh, it's yeah, it's comfortable for me that I can ask somebody, well, the tool, to to help me, and I know that it won't judge me. So it's fascinating to hear that.
That is, and especially like that it's a conversational like action that you have. It's not machine like sometimes when you get a response. It almost sounds like it has a different kind of personality. Do you find that?
Well, sometimes, yeah, well, it's really conversational. But sometimes you may find it a little bit too much, like, oh, it's like too superficial that you get that kind of response. But yeah, it really depends on the type of question that you're on your prompt. Sometimes it just comes back to you and say, oh, yes, this is a wonderful question, and I think we could do this, and let me know if you have any more questions. Sometimes it doesn't feel like very natural, but yeah, I mean, it really depends on the type of prompt that
Yeah.
we are using.
And you can always close the window and send it away, right?
And
Christy?
another good, yeah. Yeah, sorry, just wanted to add another good thing about it is that you can also ask to make corrections if you notice that there is something wrong, because it had happened to me that it had added some inaccuracies. And I have said, well, can you correct this because this information is not right? And then it comes back to you with the right information. So that's, yeah, another point.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. Yeah, what Alexandra also said about non-judgmental, and I have experienced this myself as a student on the same program with Rushi when we did the finance module. And I'm not very good at finance stuff. I haven't done that for many years. I have struggled with some of the terms and understanding what these different theories meant. So I did go also to Copilot, secure Copilot. We have secure Copilot at Leeds, which means that none of the stuff that we are feeding the machine goes out into the wild. So that presents a safer, a guarded, closed space, if you like, for us. Now, what Alexander also said about, yes, not judgmental, but it's also sometimes trying to please us, isn't it? And very quick sometimes to agree with us. So we need to be critical, like Alexandra, the example you shared there was really, really useful, that we need to question. We need to question what we get. But that questioning can only come when we think deeply and critically and creatively about what we want to learn. So a student, anybody, it doesn't need to be a student, who doesn't engage critically, who just wants something quick and dirty and doesn't care, which is not the case, with our students, with anybody who wants to learn, will fall in that trap. But we have not seen that in the submissions. And yeah, that's what I wanted to add for now. Thank you.
That's great. And I want to ask Rishi as well, because of course she's our like enthusiast, and it comes through in your chapter. I wonder about like how people can get away from this perception that the thing is right. Like we're searching for it to be, and that comes through in a lot of the chapters in your discussions, that you've learned that you can't assume that. But I think a lot of people don't enter that way, and that's where we get into some problem space. So is that obvious to a lot of students, or do they have to learn by, as Alexander said, coming across something that's wrong and they say, wait a minute, you're not right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it happens. So there's a word called hallucination. So AI hallucinates quite a lot. It gets facts and figures wrong. So it's up to our own, human thinking and cognitive skills to kind of try and test this. Again, I always say using it as a partner, not, to outsource your brain onto something. So how you can do it, without any learning or, basic awareness is by always challenging. Are you right? Are you sure? Because this is wrong, just feeding in those small statements and challenging it. What sources are you recommending this me from? Find more other sources that have counter argument towards this. It's just simple things that you can feed the AI into. And also, I use it as a critic heavily and as a devil's advocate. Whatever thoughts I have in my mind, I feed into it and say, challenge me. What's wrong? What am I missing? What's the hole in my thinking here? And so on and so forth. And there's a memory and there's an instruction in every AI model you use. So in that, I've fed it up not to sugarcoat me with great things, how Chrissy mentioned that it's always good and lovely. Be direct, brutal, and blunt with me. There are some things you can feed into the AI systems that help you uncover these things. And what I have seen with most of the models, because one prompt I copy and paste and put it in all the models, so I can see all the biases happening out there, and I can see, what all sources it's pulling, and I always ask for sources just to make sure it's getting the facts and figures right. So I think that has been one way that I elevate my thinking in terms of using AI and also challenging its perception. It always gets the maths wrong. As Chrissy mentioned, especially in our finance module, I've noticed that as well. You just ask a simple basic question and it'll get you the square root wrong or something or the other stuff. It's always wrong. And then you say, you are wrong. Then it'll go back and say, oh, yes, I'm wrong. Sorry about that. So unless and until you don't question it, you don't find the right answer. So I think it's upon us the responsibility lies with us so that we question it, we train it, and we ensure that the biases in the systems are no longer happening. And also, judgment can be, positive as well as negative out here. It can be very positive. It can judge you, oh, you're great, you're lovely, and, all feeding in all good things. But you have to train it the way how you want to use AI to be.
Excellent. I see Christina's something.
Yeah, just going back to AI and checking your sources. So AI, what I find, it can make up sources as well. So you're like, where have you found this? And it will just make it up. So this kind of brings me back to sort of critical thinking and like checking your actual resources. But actually, it kind of goes back to the value of OER to actually have legitimate sources that are openly available out there anyway. Because what I see AI doing is it's almost like becoming stupid off its own content. So the less and less content that's generated by humans, the more and more content that's just generated by AI without any human input, it kind of creates itself in this really bizarre way. So that's my kind of plea for more OER and legitimate content. And it can have AI aspects, of course. AI is a wonderful tool. It can be used in the processes, but obviously it needs that criticality and human thinking with it also.
This is like, first of all, like, does everybody have like another 4 hours? That I know there's a lot of interest and we're getting some great questions. We are getting close to the end, and so I want to get first a chance to say like what's happening next with this, and I'm gonna like elbow Chrissy that I think we should do another thing, Open Education Week, to bring in more students like Rushi and Alexandra, to hear them talk about their own uses. But what's next for the project?
Thank you so much. Yes, like we said at the beginning, we have just recruited our next editors for this year. So on purpose, obviously, students are with us until they get their qualification, and then often they leave. So we needed to find a way to get new editorial teams. So we have a rotating editorial team, if you like. So the new team are the two PGR students, the doctoral researchers. They are starting to see what this is about. And we will involve them in activities also, like you suggest, Alan, during Open Education Week, the next one in 2026. We have obviously the call is open, so we will continue accepting and reviewing contributions. Our students are going to do that. But with the submissions we have from 2024, 2025, the 28, we want to do some research to get some insights, interrogate the stories as open data to see what they are telling us. Now, another thing we want to do is the book itself, and I think a colleague here in the chat also mentioned, for example, there are some accessibility things we need to fix and expand on. For example, the podcast we have there, we need to add the transcript, but we also want some more visuals within and other media within the book, so that it's not just text. And we will be working again, hoping to work with students on that, how we can perhaps inject some more diverse outputs also from the existing story, but also from the ones we are going to get. But the most important thing for me is, and I would be interested to see what other people feel, this is not just about creating another open book, another resource. It needs to be used. So how can we integrate it? How can we expand its use and usefulness for students? Because like Rushi said, there are many students, but also many colleagues, many of us, and I include myself, we are all experimenting in that space. So how can we use a book like this, which is an open living book? It will grow, it will evolve with participation from across the wider community, but how can we make it so that it's useful for the students who are joining us now, useful for academic staff? Could it be become a useful resource, not just for all modules, for colleagues to actually share? You know, for example, we have the traffic light system Ruchi talked about. Could it be in each module, for example, as exemplars? Have a look at these examples, how other students have used it, because sometimes it's difficult for academics themselves to explain how you can use it. But it will also help these academics to see, oh, this is what you do with it. That's fascinating. You know, what can I learn as an educator from that? So for us, I think as a support team, the important bit is now, how can it become a useful resource in our institution, but also elsewhere. And we are very open also. And the final point is to collaboration with other institutions, with colleagues who would like to join us with their students, because we know this is the only way forward. Thank you.
Fantastic. And I just love the idea of a living book. That's a great concept. And we're going to be pleased to see where it's going. As well, I hope a lot of people are walking away with maybe an idea, thinking about like, what are we doing at our institutions to learn from our students? Now, we hope they all participate in the Leeds project, but it's also a lot of things that we see happening at a number of institutions, like making sure that we're hearing from the students